tonight is that in every single topic that we discussed, the concept of locally based commerce came up in everything. From our vision to land use to diversity to transportation, it came down to supporting each other in business, supporting each other in their interests, supporting each other's talents. It came down to supporting each other. It came down to a local vision. And I thought that that was really cool. That was like the thread that went through everything. We felt that there wasn't a anchor or a hub of interest for Prince Frederick, and that's just repeating what everybody else has said. We came up with the idea of a green space. We came up with the idea of a performing and visual arts center. We came up with the idea of a conference center at some point, or maybe a combination of all of those in one area that would be a place where people could gather, where people could come in and out of the county, and they don't have to live here but still can experience lots of wonderful things. So those were things that we were hearing from all the other groups, and we just basically said that too. In terms of heritage, we talked a lot about the water because we have the water around us, and Prince Frederick doesn't have access to the bay or the river, but that's not saying we can't champion that feature, that somehow in Prince Frederick championing what's around us, that the land, that's the agritourism concept, that even though it's not necessarily present, that we can't just champion what's happening around us. We talked about in terms of recreation, there was a point that we need more athletic fields for the youth in Prince Frederick. Someone brought up the idea of a large facility that could be used for graduation, so our kids don't have to go to the worst place to graduate. So that was kind of interesting. And then they mentioned bike trails and things like everyone else did too. Under land use, again, it was locally based commerce, came out big and strong. Also, something that came out big and strong was, and people really weren't for great big stores, but they really, a Lowe's or Home Depot or something was mentioned as something that could be needed in our community. And continued active places for kids, places where they can go and experience all kinds of different things that would be a good recreational thing, a land use thing. Enough diversity in housing. One of the things that was interesting was that there wasn't a whole lot of diversity, and they thought maybe there should be, especially in terms of architecture, that things should have a little more character, be a little more interesting looking, and not look like a cookie cutter kind of place. So that was kind of, insightful. And more senior housing. And then that brought us to, where do you think you want to be in 20 years? And our group was saying that we want to be at home. We want to be at home. Okay, so we talked about the aging in place concept as opposed to more senior facilities. That's an idea that most of us were fond of. When we talked about transportation in Prince Frederick, one of the big things was, why would you even want more transportation to go from this store, from a Giant to a Weiss to a, to whatever is going to be in Kmart? It's like, it's not that interesting. It's not interesting enough for us to have public transportation to go from one thing to the other. So once we build that interest, then maybe we can talk about public transportation there. A big factor, of course, was transportation, which was the traffic thing. So they addressed maybe continuing working on the loops to get rid of, some of the traffic. Okay, and let's see if there's anything else. I'm getting we're getting the cut sign. Oh,
stop sign.
The stop sign. Anyway, town center, we talked about, revitalizing the old town, the middle school. We've heard that from everybody else. Was there any other big thing?
Bring back the charrette.
Oh, bring back the charrette, yes. There was a lot of work done a number of years ago on a charrette, a lot of good ideas, and those ideas shouldn't be just thrown away. They should be pulled out, looked at, because a lot of people put a lot of work into them, so you kind of build on things as opposed to reinventing the wheel. So they got to start. Okay? I think that's it.
How
how everything fits together and a feasibility study on who's gonna pay for all of this. And a cost-benefit analysis and a quality of life.
Right. Give
Like
them a
she
round of
said.
applause.